Welcome back to another episode of Wiltfong's Whiparound. I'm your host, Steve Wiltfong with 24/7 Sports. It's August 2nd. We were supposed to be live. We were supposed to be in studio at 24/7 Sports, but there's been some things that popped up in the office. So now here I am in my hotel room in Nashville, Tennessee, bringing you the news I'm hearing from the trail. Alabama closing July with a flurry. Starting out hot here in August, they land a commitment from top 247 defensive lineman Hunter Osborne on the first of the month. You can go back and watch his commitment on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel where you're at right now and see those festivities. That commitment moved them from number 4 to number 2 in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. Then today, earlier this afternoon at noon, it's 3:15 right now Eastern time. Ty Lockwood, a longtime Ohio State commit, top 247 tight end from right here in the Tennessee area. He flips his commitment from Ohio State to Alabama. Alabama leaps Notre Dame for the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They're trying to flip Notre Dame's top commit, Keon Keeley. They had him in over the weekend. Ty Lockwood visited last week. So Alabama, they have the number 1 recruiting class in the country right now. They were the team of July on the trail, in my opinion. Some other schools that come to mind in that realm, Miami and Florida. Who's a team to watch in August? Let's get rocking and rolling there. Chris, big thanks to my producer, Chris Belcher, who's playing sick, producing this show. So mad salute to you. But my man did make it to SummerSlam on Saturday night. Saw Brock Lesnar flip the ring with a tractor, sent me an awesome photo of that. So big props to Chris Belcher, our creative influence. Trey Scott's on vacation. So if this show sucks, it's because he's on vacation. We will bounce back next week when he gets back. But a team to watch here in August, they had a great July, is LSU. LSU has risen to number 10 in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings with a strong July that included commitments from receiver Jaylen Brown, defensive lineman Deshaun Womack, Jackson Howard, and Deron Reed, edge rusher Joshua Mickens. They closed the month with a key offensive line commitment, 4-star Tyree Adams. So they had a monster July. They beat Michigan for Paul Mubenga, 1 point, a heavy lean to Michigan. The offensive lineman now headed to LSU, and Mubenga and Tyree Adams. That's a really good start on the offensive line for LSU in this 2023 recruiting cycle. It's in my opinion their biggest position of need. They're going to play some young guys this year. Let me put my phone on vibrate, but they're going to play some young guys this year at the point of attack, and they need to bring in some ready-made body types and some guys that can bang at the point of attack. And I think Tyree Adams is a guy that would be able to come in and compete right away. And Paul Mubenga, he's the kind of guy that if you talk to people, or if you're familiar with the way that Notre Dame recruited offensive linemen, Paul Mubenga fits that mold as this long, athletic, high upside, but needs some development in the hopper. That's what Paul Mubenga is. That's why Michigan coveted him and so many other programs. But in the end, it's LSU, and that's a great foundation for them. And they're going to try and build on that with 2 more major offensive line targets, and Lance Hurd and DJ Chester. DJ Chester's is as physically impressive an offensive line recruit as there is in America when you're talking about hand size, length, and size and athletic ability and high football IQ. Comes from a very intelligent family. His mom's an assistant principal. Academics are big for DJ Chester. I think LSU has set the tone in that recruitment, but he's going to take some officials this fall. He's going to go up to Michigan. Michigan's done a good job. He's going to go to the Michigan State game. He's been to Ole Miss a few times. He's going to get back to Ole Miss and see the Rebels take on Kentucky. And he's going to go to Florida State for an official visit and see the Seminoles play this year. But I think that LSU has set the tone in that recruitment for DJ Chester. I think that LSU is the one to beat for Lance Hurd. If they can finish with those 2 to go along with it's already in the boat, that is going to be one of the best SEC or one of the best offensive line classes in the SEC, one of the best offensive line classes in America, and marking a major need if they can go out and add those 2 blue chippers to what's already in the fold. Big news on the quarterback trail last night. Ricky Collins, longtime commit to Purdue, 4-star passer from Baton Rouge, finally decommits from Purdue. I think we all saw that coming, despite Ricky saying at the Elite 11 finals that he was locked in. Look, he was having dialogue with Florida State. He was having dialogue with LSU. And those are exciting, enticing places. And those were programs that really started pushing for him after he committed to Purdue. So the young man had new information and became a priority for some other programs. I think we like the way that it's trending for LSU right now. My crystal ball is on the Tigers for Ricky Collins. He's a guy that Coach Joe Sloan and Coach Brian Kelly and company are really excited about and have high on their board, and had him alongside some of the other elite names. And he was a committable take when Dante Moore was still out there in play, and a committable take when Eli Holstein was still out there in play. So this new staff got into LSU, started building a rapport with Ricky Collins right away. And he's one that now is officially trending to the Tigers, coming off a decommitment to Purdue. It's a big commitment this weekend. 5-star receiver Shelton Sampson's going to announce his college decision. Alabama, Florida State, Texas A&M, and LSU are the finalists. Every person I talk to believes that LSU is the program to beat going into his decision. Now, I did talk to a source that said, hey, could take some officials still after the season. I know that Shelton has already utilized a couple of his official visits to date. He's already taken one to Alabama, and he's already taken one to Florida State. I think that his mom and his family really like Florida State. So if Florida State comes out this fall and has a great season, I could see maybe the arrow going up on them. But right now, I like LSU, and I think Texas A&M is the team to watch moving forward. He was in College Station this past weekend, had a great experience. And even if he does choose LSU this weekend, which I think he will, I still wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in College Station for an official visit down the road. But LSU, they're starting to get some home cooking going here. I think that even as they were starting to put this class together, there's a lot of national flavor right there. They're in Florida and land one of the fastest receivers in the country. They go up to Maryland and land one of the most coveted defensive linemen in America, and Deshaun Womack. Jackson Howard's from Minnesota. Dalen Austin's from California. Joshua Mickens from the great state of Indiana. Markway from Missouri. They have Deron Reed and Whit Weeks from Georgia, and they're starting to get a little more home cooking in the fold. They had Trey Holly committed in May, but now you have Tyree Adams in the mix. You land Caleb Jackson, one of the more coveted running backs in the country, in July. I didn't mention him earlier, but he's one of the fastest, more productive running backs in the country. Both those in-state running backs kind of getting things going in-state for LSU, and Kylan Jackson's a safety from in-state that they're in a good spot for. Ricky Collins, quarterback from in-state. Shelton Sampson, Zalance Hurd. Those would all be monster in-state pickups for LSU and the kind of home cooking that they're used to. But Brian Kelly and company, they're also recruiting nationally still. They're trying to win another national championship in Baton Rouge and looking for players of that caliber. Javian Toviano is a defensive back that they prioritized, have extremely high on their board. He's been to Baton Rouge a couple of times. I think the way it's set up right now, LSU is the team to beat for him. I think that, that again, I brought up Notre Dame and Mubenga earlier. Javian Toviano is the kind of guy that Notre Dame would have coveted with his high football IQ as well. But LSU, I think that they're the ones that are recruiting Javian Toviano the hardest and the best. And with that, I think that they're the one to beat. And one more major target I want to talk about before we pivot to one of LSU's rivals in Texas A&M is Nicholas Harbor, the number one athlete in the country, the number 9 overall player in the top 247. He's 6'5", 225 pounds with 10.28 speed in the 100-meter dash, 20.79 speed in the 200-meter. He's one of the fastest players in America. He's going to run track in college. He's got one official visit locked in. It's to LSU the weekend of October 7th. And he's got a long-standing relationship with Jamar Cain, who recruited him at Oklahoma, translated it to USC. Now at LSU, LSU's track program certainly sticking out. And LSU, as they try and put this recruiting class together, they want one more tight end, one more pass catcher, one more mismatch, something along those lines. And I think that that's a spot where they could view Nicholas Harbor as well. I think the playing offense is a very relevant topic for Nicholas. He's 225 pounds. If you watch track footage of him, it is mind-blowing what he looks like on the track before he starts out running those little dudes. That's what they look like when they're standing next to him. I think offense is something that's very exciting to him because it allows him to keep the weight he wants to keep, to run the track times he wants to run in the spring. And it's also less pounding on the body. You're not trying to hit somebody on every play if you're on offense. So I think that that's something that LSU certainly open to. That's a position of need for them. They're getting them in on October 7th. So I think that LSU has a lot going for them in the recruitment of Nicholas Harbor as they battle Michigan and battle Miami and Georgia and Maryland and USC for that elite talent. Texas A&M, Chris, they're starting to get rolling. It was a big weekend for them. They go out and they land 5-star linebacker Anthony Hill, the #1 player in the country at the position. He's a second-level wrecking ball that also brings a pass rush presence. They go out and land one of the best two-way players in the state, if not the best two-way player in the state, in Dalton Brooks, who had nearly 100 tackles as a sophomore, like 2,000 yards rushing, over 2,000 yards rushing as a junior. Coveted safety target for them. He jumps in the boat. And then they beat Oregon for a massive defensive line recruit in Samu Tamanu Pepe, who committed to them this week shortly after his visit. And they also got their first commitment in 2024, Chris, top 247 defensive lineman, Dalen Evans. I'm expecting more guys who visited for their pool party over the weekend to eventually jump in. 4-star offensive lineman TJ Shanahan, and then former Texas A&M commit, top 247 defensive lineman Johnny Bowens. Looks like that's going back in the right direction. Peyton Bowen, top 247 safety, currently committed to Notre Dame. One source today said that they thought Notre Dame was running third behind Texas A&M and Oklahoma. Now, there's other, I think you talk to various people about this recruitment. I think that if you follow the visits, it's obvious that he's looking strongly at the Aggies, looking strongly at Oklahoma. So we'll see if either of those programs can flip him from the Irish. But there are people that spent time with him in College Station that think that the Aggies have some momentum in that recruitment. The big news of the weekend was, and Greg Biggins was on top of it for us, my colleague, national analyst from out west, Malachi Nelson, the #2 player overall in the top 247, quarterback, longtime commit to USC, even longer commit to Lincoln Riley, committed to Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma, then decommitted and flipped to USC when Lincoln Riley took his game to the Pac-12 and Southern Cal. Malachi Nelson pops up on a visit to Texas A&M. Talked to some people that spent some time with Malachi purely from a Texas A&M angle. I think that people think it's going to be hard for Texas A&M to flip Malachi Nelson from USC and his ties to Lincoln Riley and his love for that offense, and certainly his ties to the area and helping USC build this class. But I think that they believe that the interest in A&M is real, and the thought of playing elsewhere outside of LA is also real when Malachi Nelson can use Bryce Young and CJ Stroud as a resource and bend their ear, and those guys talking about what great experiences they had leaving LA and thriving at Alabama, thriving at Ohio State. I think that those comments and those conversations have resonated with him enough to maybe make sure that he has dotted the I's and crossed the T's on his recruitment. He committed to Oklahoma very early, and then he just flipped to USC. I know he took some college visits as a freshman and a sophomore. He's one of the first recruits in this class to emerge. He's one of the more purest throwers of the football in America. My first time seeing him was at the QB Collective event in Indianapolis 2 years ago. He's throwing alongside Caleb Williams and Nussmeier and Drake May, and he may have been the best thrower of the ball in that venue, in that setting on that day. He's been ahead of the curve as a thrower for years. So with that, he was the first major quarterback recruit alongside Arch Manning to land a bunch of offers. He commits to Oklahoma early, then at USC. So he never even really gone through a process. So now, from my vantage point, I see a young man that's just going through the process, dotting I's, crossing T's. No question, he still loves Coach Riley, still feels like he's got a ton of potential there. But let's see if maybe there's not a better option. Got to look at A&M. We'll see what happens with him moving forward, and Greg Biggins will certainly stay on top of that story for us. Let's pivot to another high-profile quarterback, Jayden Davis, 2024 Signal Caller from North Carolina, the top ranked uncommitted quarterback in his class, took 2 big visits over the weekend, went to Georgia on Friday, went to Michigan's barbecue at the Big House on Sunday. And both of those programs continue to do the right things to be a mainstay in that one. Todd Monken, the whole visit to Georgia was showing Jadyn Davis how what Georgia does schematically and how they prepare their quarterbacks will translate to the NFL. And I think Jayden Davis and his family were very impressed by that. And then Michigan, it was his second time up there. And both of his visits to Michigan, the family has had extended time with Jim Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh blew them away on his first visit earlier in the summer with just his personality, his pedigree, the organization of his football program and his place in it. And then certainly his QB acumen and what he's done at the position as a player, and then what he's done as a coach of it in the NFL and then on the college level. This visit come back up. They just pick up right where they left off. They hang out with Coach Harbaugh a ton before the barbecue. Obviously, they mingling with him at the barbecue, and they get a lot of time with him after the barbecue. And Coach Harbaugh, the conversations, what I'm hearing from Jayden Davis and his family, I've never heard the praise that Coach Harbaugh is getting from one family about Coach Harbaugh. And we know Coach Harbaugh is we've heard a ton of praise for Coach Harbaugh from recruits over the years, but it's obvious that Jayden Davis and his family are really enjoying their time around him. And Michigan's a factor. They want to get back to Michigan and experience a game day in the big house. They've never done that before. So look for him to take some game visits this fall. Penn State's going to get a game visit. LSU's in the thick of that. I would imagine he'll get back to Georgia. You got Clemson as a contender, North Carolina as a contender. I expect Jayden Davis to take some fall visits when he can. Then he's going to take his official visits in the spring. Then he's going to make his college decision. That's always been his timetable. If something pops off sooner, it would be a drastic change from what they're planning to do. I want to finish the show here with the Oregon Ducks. Oregon has been a bridesmaid in a few recruitments lately. It's been some tough sledding for them over the last couple of weeks, but I think they might get hot again here soon. They have 12 commits. They have the nation's number 16 recruiting class. So Dan Lanning and company overall, since they've arrived in Eugene, have been recruiting at a high clip. They ended up rallying to finish with the number 1 class in the Pac-12 last cycle, and certainly off and running here overall in this class with Dante Moore and Jurian Dickey, among others, in the fold already. But they got a chance to get hot here and close strong over the next few weeks. Jacoby Lane's a 4-star receiver from Arizona that they're trending for on the crystal ball, including my pick receiver. Like we said at the top, like we said on last show, big need for Florida, big need for Oregon in this cycle too. They have Kyler Casper reclassifying from 2023 to 2022. They have Jurian Dickey and Ashton Kozart in the fold. Those are 2 fast, dynamic, playmaking 6'3" plus receivers on the perimeter. And Jacoby Lane's another outstanding playmaker with size and mismatch ability. That would be a hell of a receiver haul for any program, one of the best in the country, in my opinion, if they can add Jacoby Lane to that, which I think they will. Jerry Mixon's a linebacker that my colleague Brandon Huffman and I have forecasted to Oregon, who was in town over the weekend for Saturday Night Live. Mykiel Gardner and Amari Washington are 2 defensive linemen from Arizona that I still like Oregon's position for as well. So the Ducks, who landed a commitment on Monday on 24/7 Sports YouTube channel, and 4-star defensive lineman Terrence Green, looking for more commitments as the week goes on. But that's it for the show today. Stay tuned. We may have one Thursday. We may not. There's a lot of travel going on, but we hope to have one. But thanks for tuning in here. Have a great day, and we'll see y'all soon.